The class photo at last weekend's Pacific Islands Forum, and one leader here is riding high. Nauru's president, Baron Wonga, re-elected for another term and feted by his Australian counterpart.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, fantastic. Good to see you.
With him is the country's Justice Minister, David Addyang, the man many consider the power behind the throne. But these leaders have a questionable history and critics who are prepared to confront them.
Any new evidence that has come forth needs to be examined.
A authority should go after anybody, whatever their position, irrespective of their political position. Should make no difference.
Across the Tasman in the New Zealand capital, a former Nauruan MP has been reunited with his young family.
Pink is strawberry.
Yes. Roland Kuhn only recently made it home after being stranded on Nauru for more than a year. The government there had cancelled his passport. He only got out when New Zealand made him a citizen and gave him a new travel document.
13 months of separation was just too long. 3 weeks would have been too long. 2 weeks would have been too long for me, but 13 months was just ridiculous.
Roland Kuhn's crime, it seems, was speaking to 730 a year ago and criticising the ruling government amid claims of corruption.
Very undemocratic. We totally disagree with it. It's just bizarre.
Now able to speak out again, he says the government has not changed.
Their lack of regard for rule of law, their lack of regard for human rights, and then just a high level of indifference and ignorance in those who allow the key decision makers to deliver what to me seems like insane decisions.
In the past 2 years, Nauru has outlawed public criticism of the government, banned Facebook, and only last month cancelled the passports of 20 people for attending an anti-government protest, including former President Sprent Dabwido, another critic who spoke to 730 last year and targeted the Justice Minister David Addyang.
He's about 5 cans short of a six-pack. He's a bit cuckoo there.
Not only is the Nauruan government accused of breaching fundamental rights, the President and Justice Minister are also tied up in an AFP investigation over bribery. It surrounds the island's biggest resource, its phosphate industry, and an attempt by a Gold Coast-based business called Getax to take it over. Emails uncovered by 730 last year showed David Addyang in constant communication with Getax in 2009 and 2010. They suggest he was receiving monthly kickbacks from the company. Getax wanted to buy out Nauru's remaining phosphate deposit, and it saw Addyang, then in opposition, as the best path in.
One of his emails was offering to sell the whole phosphate industry to this Getax company, which is close to treason, if you ask me.
In the correspondence, Addyang arranged for hundreds of thousands of dollars to be transferred to a string of MPs, including himself and the now President Baron Wonga, in the hope that they could overthrow the then Nauruan government. President Wonga said last year he's never received a cent in bribes. The Nauruan government called the allegations baseless. But now 730 has uncovered more evidence of the Getax money trail, and it again implicates Minister Addyang.
He needs to answer to those emails which were pointing to bribery and which is consistent with the evidence that you have now found.
These are the banking records that shed new light on this case. Dated 2008, they show consistent payments coming from Getax and going into the account of David Addyang's then wife, Madeline. The payment receipts confirm a rate of 10,000 Australian dollars a month, usually accompanied by the description fees for Addyang or consultancy fees. A separate general ledger from Getax obtained by 730 confirms the information. More payments transferred from the phosphate company to Madeline Addyang.
Yeah, Transparency International is very concerned about all instances of foreign bribery, and there have been plenty of them lately. This is one more in a parade of very unsavoury looking incidents.
Anthony Wheely is a former Supreme Court Justice who now works with big business to stamp out corruption. He's urging authorities to bring their investigation to a close.
We have the utmost sympathy for the Australian Federal Police. They've got a big job to do. They've got 20 investigations or so underway. But I think the public want results here, and until we get some, transparency won't be satisfied, and nor will the community.
He's concerned Australia's use of Nauru for offshore immigration processing could be viewed as a factor in the investigation of this case.
There is a perception that perhaps the government doesn't want this sort of investigation to come to anything much. Now, that's probably an unfair suspicion, but it's certainly there, and it will linger. And the longer it takes to get a prosecution underfoot, the more Australia's reputation will suffer.
The operators of Getax are now doing business in Dubai. They're the focus of the AFP investigation, and due to an extradition treaty, they're not out of reach. The Nauruan government didn't respond to 730's inquiries. The police investigation is ongoing.
In my view, it makes and should make no difference who the politician is and what rank they hold. If they've engaged in this sort of behaviour and they've received that sort of money from a commercial company to favour them to develop what is clearly one of Nauru's great assets, its phosphate deposits, then that is quite extraordinary.
The Australian people have got a right to be concerned that their taxpayer dollars are being spent in large quantities on Nauru, and there are apparently very serious allegations against senior members of the Nauruan government.
Nauru's leaders are emboldened by their election victory this year. They openly refuse visas to critics of the regime, including Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young. In Canberra, the Greens now have a new spokesman seeking access.
We'll be going through the process. We're hopeful that we'll get a visa, but given recent refusals, we're not all that confident.
Roland Kuhn won't be returning to Nauru anytime soon. From New Zealand, he's offering to cooperate with the AFP's bribery investigation, and he's determined to continue speaking out about the state of affairs in his country of birth.
It's just sad that any government would think it reasonable to subject any of its citizens to the kind of treatment that I've had to endure with my government.